What's going on there, YouTube? So, it's the weekend. I just uploaded the paint and body video for the bed on this, and I was trying to work on the Westmade build, and I'm so caught up with this build right now, I want to keep going on it, so here we are. I know in the last video I said I was going to do the wooden floor on the bed and stuff next, and I've gotten some stuff to do that. I think the stuff I got is going to work. I just need a few more. I underestimated how much I needed. I'm going to use paint sticks, like paint stir sticks that you get at any hardware store when you buy paint, house paint. And little Ace Hardware down here in Sanger had some that was perfect thickness, and I just didn't grab enough because it does have the little notches for the handle. Let me grab one and I'll show you that. I'm going to have to trim all that off and won't be able to use that little piece there, so I will be able to save some of that to fill in stuff. But yeah, these are nice thickness, good looking wood. We'll age it and weather it and stuff, but not in this video. So I've been out here for a couple hours already and things are lining up great, so I'll get you up to speed here. I've got my Yoda 2 axle with a 4-link and everything, and it's the perfect width with those Vanquish hubs. Can't remember what size those were, but they worked out excellent. And now my front axle, I have the drop axle, and I had narrowed it, and I've spent a lot of time on it. And as you can see by the wire hanging out from under the front, I've got steering sorted out. And if you've followed along with my rat rod builds, that's kind of a big thing, because the steering with these straight axles and air suspension and stuff is tedious. It always ends up being the last thing you get to, and you end up not really getting it to work right, or it's just a pain. So we've got that taken care of. I've tried to look ahead as far as I can on the axle, and I'll show you more about that. So already getting questions on Instagram. I posted a picture similar, can't talk today, to this. There's not going to be room for an engine. There's not going to be any scale engine bay. Probably not even going to have the hood open, because there's going to be too much stuff going on with the Proairrc stuff. And it's not that system is huge. The little control box takes up a little space, but the way it's all going to have to work on this slam truck, it's got to lay down. There's got to be cantilever. There's going to be quite a lot of suspension going on, and that I'm pretty sure I'm not even going to have space for any kind of interior either. We're going to have to make some kind of dash for it, because the window is so big, but we'll get to that stuff later. But right now I want to start on the chassis. And to start on the chassis, I had to start on the axle. So I've got it about all squared away. There was a few things I ran into. Let me zoom you in here. Using these beadlock wheels. If I had not gotten the beadlock wheels, it would have made my steering links a lot easier. I had to trim down some of the arm on the spindle, because it's hitting the screw mounts on the beadlock ring on the wheel. Not a huge deal. I just kind of reshaped it, narrowed it in, drilled new holes, and yeah, I only needed it on one side. I left it on the other side and trimmed it down as well, because I didn't know which side I was going to connect the servo to. So yeah, I'll pull it out here and flip it over, and we'll talk about the bottom in a second. The front side, I needed to space further down because of the servo, so the arm could clear. I tried to use servo arms like this, and I broke this one trying to bend it just a little bit, so that didn't hit the inside of the wheel as well. But I found a workaround for that, and got it all squared away. My suspension mounts are in place. The only trick is going to be working the cantilever system around some of it, but I've tried to think ahead. The only thing on this side is the servo arm. The bulk of the servo sets to the front of the truck, hanging over the axle. Our tie rod connecting the spindles is in front of the axle. Our wire is in front of the axle, so everything is out of the way, and our lower mounts for like a radius arm style front suspension are clear and free of all the steering, and they are going to be narrower than normal, because I narrowed this axle, I'd say more than half an inch. It took a lot to get these 2.2s tucked under here, and I've played with hubs and spacers and stuff, and that was part of the reason I used such a small hub on the Vanquish wheel that brought all of the spindle and stuff inside of the wheel, which caused clearance issues with the arms and the rod ends and stuff hitting it. So one fix caused another two problems. So that's how it always goes, though. So let me pull this thing out and show you what it looks like. So just like on the Westmade Peterbilt, when I widened one of these axles, I narrowed it the same way. I used my 1/2-inch steel tubing that I use for my chassis rails. This was just a scrap piece. It's got a couple extra holes here and there, but yeah, I just cut a good bit out of the axle and cut me a section of that and just kept hacking it down until it got the right width to tuck everything under. I drilled 4 holes, put bolts and nuts through to hold it together, and on this one I also used the servo mount the other way. They're pretty close. I heard the drill bit scraping some threads on that bolt on this side when it was going through, but that allowed me to put the servo on the axle, so as it goes up and down there's no there's no excess play in the steering. The steering will be true in the full range of the air suspension movement, and that's not the best looking scale thing for crawlers, but on this you're not going to see it. That's why I opted to use this standard 3mm hardware instead of using all the scale bolts. In a couple places I did use my nice RC 4-wheel drive steel Heim joints, but really didn't need it because you're not going to see any of this, and it also didn't work out on the front, so I ended up using plastic rod ends. You can see here it took me a while to get the right combination in here to actually work, but it just barely clears. There's probably 2 mil of clearance between the servo and the arm. So we've got good functioning steering and nice solid axle. Not ideal for this. Typically at this type of truck it would have some kind of independent front suspension, whether it be Mustang 2 or something off a later car, but you know, we just need it to go up and down and turn left and right. We're not going to see it. It's going to be all about the exterior view of this truck. All of the awesome cantilever suspension stuff is going to be tucked away. If it comes out looking just like amazing killer, I might hinge the hood, but you know, it's not going to be scaled because you're not going to have an engine underneath it. But we'll cross that bridge later. So I've got a couple of little things in the works. Cut up my old waste basket, a little steel mesh trash can that my parents gave me a long time ago that I've used for grills, like on the rat rod back there, number 2. And I've bent a piece to go behind here, and I've got it rusting in the bathroom with some peroxide and vinegar. Just lightly scuffed it. Had a silver finish, and I was just trying to bring out some rust in it. We'll see how it works. It might need a little more work, but just a few little odds and ends while we're going to start looking at the chassis. Alright guys, so I'm going to wrap this video up here. I started looking at doing the frame, and I created some new puzzles I need to solve with it. And I started cutting metal, and I needed to stop before I mess up all of my stock. I need to make a final decision as to how the frame is going to lay out and what materials I'm going to use. I was looking at some different things. I am worried about weight on this. The Proairrc said that could be an issue with those air struts. If I got enough steel on here plus the whole weight of another rat rod on the back, we could double up the rear cylinders. And I've worked that idea, be able to expand to that in the rear suspension as far as the layout of the suspension, but trying to prevent that. I think I'm going to switch to aluminum on the upper portion of the frame that's going to have to support the bed floor, and help save some weight there. I'm not sure yet on the chassis. I've got a lot more brainstorming to do, but you can see the front axle fits in the truck. It tucks all the way up to the bottom of the hood, and the body lays rocker nice and even, and it just worked out perfect. So hopefully next time we can start on the chassis. I'm not sure if I showed you the rear. It's just a Yoda 2 RC 4-wheel drive. It's got a ballistic fabs diff cover, and it's got the standard 4-link mount. I've just got some rods on there for the time being. What size were those? Those Vanquish hubs I got were, I think they were 140s. They were the shallow ones I could find, and it kind of worked against me on the front, having to shorten the arms, the steering links on the spindle. But on the rear, it worked out perfect. It couldn't have fit any better if I'd have actually measured it and thought about it more. So I like the idea that the steering is already taken care of. That's always a hurdle I have to overcome later in my rat rod builds. And yeah, so that's taken care of. All we got to do now is get that chassis going, and then we can get back to the details, the wooden bed floor, get the windows, figure out dash of some sorts, and all the little fun stuff, and then we can start driving around slammed and carrying rat rods. But anyway, guys, I appreciate you watching. Be sure to check me out on Instagram and Facebook. There is a Facebook RC Everyday page now. Trying to get everybody off of my personal page, but it keeps growing. So if you just want to follow along, Instagram is the best way usually. But anyways, I appreciate y'all watching. Be sure to like, subscribe, and share. Check out the rest of the channel, and keep it scale. I'll see you on the next video.